Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where, talk about whatever the hell I want. And this particular episode, we're doing another top 10, our favorite films. And joining me is fellow podcaster Todd Liebenow. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Absolutely. And I know we've got to chat about, getting to know you a little bit about movies, and I got to be on your podcast. So now we get to learn what are those films that really connect with you. So I guess starting off, diving in. So where are we starting with your top 10?
Well, I was going to ask you, do we go 1 to 10? We go 10 to 1? What's the typical thing you like here?
Let's count it down. So let's start with number 10.
Okay. So, I am very much a Disney junkie.
Okay.
I'm very much into Disney history and just following all the different aspects of that entity and all the different things they've been in. And when I think about Disney films, I always say, it's very easy for us to just kind of get into this mindset of they're, things that have always been with us, they're childhood favorites, things like that. And we don't always think about how some of them are legitimately great cinematic achievements.
Mm,
And so my number 10 is what I think is Walt Disney's greatest cinematic achievement, and that is Mary Poppins.
very nice.
So yeah, I just think that this film kind of has everything that I love
Mm,
about that studio and the things they put out. Of course, it's got some great animated segments
mm,
to it, not just animated, but incorporating live action with the animation, which is kind of fun to look at in terms of, that's part of where
mm.
Walt Disney started. With the Alice
Yeah.
shorts was one of the earliest integrations of live action and animation. But I mean, you've got an Oscar-winning performance from
Mhm.
Julie Andrews. You've got songs by the Sherman Brothers that, some of them are just so wonderful and playful and funny, and then other ones just rip your heart out. I mean, I
Mhm.
think I was thinking about it earlier today, and I think that Feed the Birds may be number two on my list for the most beautiful songs ever written. Number one,
Mm.
of course, is God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. But number two, I
There
think,
we
would be
go.
Feed the Birds. So, yeah, there's just so many wonderful things going on with Mary Poppins. And I just, it's one of those movies that draws me in. If I happen to be sitting there and suddenly it's on or the family's watching it or something, I just can't resist Mary Poppins.
I'm a humongous fan of Mary Poppins, and that's one of my favorite films as well. And Julie Andrews has been one of my favorite actors since even I was a kid. And she is absolutely incredible in this film. And I know, Dick Van Dyke gets a lot of flack for his Cockney accent in this, but he's still an extremely charismatic performer
Hmm.
as Bert as well. And yes, the musical numbers are iconic and fun and just hit a very specific place. And honestly, from like a technical achievement, this is something really remarkable. Which
Right.
yes, I've seen some of those Alice shorts and how far they had come in terms of being able to like that whole entire sequence where they jump into you know the chalk
Yeah.
world,
Hmm.
and it's insane the amount of one also like comedic timing of Dick Van Dyke doing all of that stuff with the
Yeah.
penguins and
The
stuff like
pe
that.
the penguin sequence is just wonderful. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I 100% agree. It's an incredible film. And it is one of those types of things where I do think that a lot of people take for granted Disney and some of that kind of stuff because they're like, oh, it's just like, these been things since we've loved since we were kids. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that this isn't something really impressive
Hmm.
along the
Yeah.
way too.
Mary Poppins is also one of my earliest memories when it comes to movies where I would see not the whole thing, but parts of it over and
Yeah.
over and over again.
Mm,
Um, you know, I I was a child in the 70s, a teenager in the 80s. So we didn't really have the full advantage of the VCR
Yeah.
and cable TV until my teenage years. So I can remember when I was a young child, and this is like going way back in the memory bank. But my mother was in a ladies bowling league. And so like
Nice.
during the summertime when we weren't in school, we would have to go with to the bowling alley. And the bowling alley back then, they weren't like they were today. This one had like a room that people could rent out for parties and things like that. And when they would have these ladies leagues, they would turn it into the childcare area. And
Mm.
so we would be back there, and about halfway through, because we were there for a couple hours, they would pull out the movie projector, not the TV, but
Mm.
the movie projector, and
Nice.
they would have these little, movies, and they were snippets from usually Disney movies, not the whole movie, but
Mm.
parts. And so, like several scenes from Mary Poppins were in the regular rotation. I remember Spoonful of Sugar would always show over and over again. The other one I always remember was not from Mary Poppins, but from a similar film, the soccer game from Bedknobs and Broomsticks got shown a
Yes.
lot as well. Uh, but yeah, before we had VCRs, that was the way we got to relive some of these movies when they weren't on television. So
Yeah, I was still in the point where I would still watch stuff on TV, and it was a very it was a special kind of thing where you would just like occasionally pick up like part of a movie because you caught only like a section of it while it was on television. Now it's like if it's on a streaming service, you could just, start from the beginning.
right.
And it's a whole different other kind of experience that, kids today are just missing out on this very specific type of experience
Yep.
taking in
Yep.
a movie.
Mhm.
Now, what's your number nine?
So number nine, I realized looking at my list here, my first three choices are all from the 60s. So
Okay,
number nine, we're gonna go to 1968 for the original Planet of the Apes.
very nice.
I love the Apes series. I think
Hmm.
I mean, it's a series that's still going strong. I mean, here we are
Yeah,
over 50 years later, and the Apes films are still happening, and they're still really good. The
yes,
last one out
yeah.
last year, I really enjoyed. Uh, but this one, it starts things off. It's, another case where it's really groundbreaking in terms of like the
Hmm.
makeup. Really, really well done there. I mean, it's stuff at the time that had never been seen before.
Yeah.
Heston is at his most Heston-y in this
Yeah.
movie. Uh, and it's just, it's such a, I mean, it's a simple premise, but at the same time, there's a lot going on there. It's a film that really
Hmm.
gets you thinking about things. Um, it's one of those movies that I made sure that I was going to show to my kids at an early
Hmm.
age. I can remember sitting them down on the couch and saying, "We're going to watch this movie because this is one that's really special to me." And I actually had to get creative because, and I'll throw up spoiler alert just in case any of your
Yeah.
viewers have not seen Planet of the Apes. Okay, stop listening for a second here. But it bugged the heck out of me that the DVD that I have for Planet of the Apes, the menu screen image is of the ending. Okay,
Yes.
the spoiler ending there.
Yep.
Okay, and I was like, wait a second, I gotta make sure I don't give this away to my kids. And so as we were sitting down to watch it, I told them, all right, I want you guys grab a pillow there, bury your face in a pillow.
Yeah.
Do not look at the screen. I had to get past the menu screen before I made them look because I did not want them to see the Statue of Liberty at the end
Yeah.
of the movie there on the menu screen. Uh, but yeah, it's just such a great example of sci-fi from this era. I mean, like we said, it's a series that continues to be great. I think the Ape series is one of the best examples of sci-fi from the last 50 years. And I mean, I have a special place in my heart for all those films. The
Yeah.
ups and downs of that whole series. I mean, I I think Battle for the Planet of the Apes is terrible. It's the last of the
Yeah,
first five films. It's not a good movie. But if you said to me right now, you want to watch Battle for the Planet of the Apes? I'd be like, yes, absolutely. Let's watch it.
yeah.
So
I have a very special New Year's memory of just my mom had plans, my brother had plans. I was just home. I watched all five original Planet of the Apes
oh wow.
movies, and it was just that kind of night. But it's such a fascinating series up to what is it, I guess nine entries at this point. And because it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you have those first five obviously all connected with the Chambers designed ape makeup and Roddy McDowall basically being the only through
Yeah.
point through all of these movies. And there's diminishing returns basically for that section of the series, and the second one was
Oh.
one of the wildest sequel ideas to a
The,
movie.
I've talked to this with other friends many times because yeah, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, it's like, what on earth were they thinking with this thing? And I love just the trivia about, like, Heston didn't want to come back.
Yes.
They put in a fake Heston for, much of the movie, and James Franciscus, but Heston's like, all right,
To only
well,
vaguely look like him.
I'll come back for a short amount of the movie. And one of his conditions was that he gets to blow up the world. And so it's like it's the second film of the series. They destroy the planet, and yet, like you said, there's what, nine movies in this series?
The time logic between going into Escape for the Planet of the Apes was complete nonsense.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating movie. It's just and Rise of the Planet of the Apes was such a grounded, interesting twist on the series
Hmm.
and bringing it back. And then
Yeah.
basically what Matt Reeves did with Dawn and War, those were some absolutely incredible films. But I I know a lot of people who absolutely love the new films, and this original film needs to get a lot more credit, especially because one, I was double checking that my DVD cover did not have any of that on there because I've seen posters with that on. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what are you doing? But you know, Franklin J. Schaffner, between this and Patton, are two films that I think are fantastic. And honestly, that opening act of this film is some really impressive filmmaking where you're just like, there's not a whole lot of dialogue. There's stretches of just
Hmm.
capturing this seemingly remote desert planet.
Yeah.
Um, and the Jerry Goldsmith score
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that.
in
Yeah.
this is one of the most unique scores I've heard in a movie. And it's so pitch perfect. You just have the do-do-do-do-do-do, and just like all of these ambient noises and stuff like that. And this is gonna sound weird coming from especially somebody who's born in the 90s, but like Charlton Heston's like my favorite actor. I just absolutely love the sheer presence that he brings to literally any movie that he's in. And him as Taylor in this, he is so good. Like that moment where he's just giving the two other astronauts so much crap, and
Oh
then he
yeah.
just starts cackling, and it just like pushes in on him. And that laugh is so eerie and uncomfortable. And Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter, fantastic. But Mars Evans is as
Dr.
Dr.
Zayas. Yeah.
Zayas.
Yeah.
The Simpsons have a whole episode dedicated to him. He
That's one of the
is
most brilliant things that The Simpsons ever did. I mean,
ever
just
did.
just the line where they have in a song, "I hate every ape I see from chimpanzee to chimpanzee." It's just gold.
I would pay money to see that musical for real, honestly. But like that whole entire tribunal scene with him
Oh
and
yeah.
like James Whitmore, who pops up as the president of this assembly, that is such an interesting and compelling discourse about religion and science where I'm like, this movie's from the 60s and seems like a conversation happening today still.
And
And
yet, at the same time, in that scene, they add some bizarre humor, that if you're not
mhm,
watching, you're going to miss the whole thing where the three of them are sitting there and they do the speak no evil, hear no evil, see no evil monkey thing. And it's brilliant.
brilliant. This is a fantastic film. I've been watching this since I was a kid, probably well before I could process the deep philosophical meaning of a lot of the stuff in
Oh,
this
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
But it works on that fun sci-fi. It's a Planet of Apes verse, and then on that much deeper perspective of what this is really trying to say.
Hmm.
All while having Charlton Heston just gritting his teeth, being cynical the whole entire time.
I mean, his character is a bit of a jerk. I mean,
Is a jerk.
especially at the beginning, like you were talking about there, they set him up as a character that you start to hate, right,
Yep.
right away. And so, to actually, start to feel for this guy as the movie goes on is quite an accomplishment. But yeah, he's not a good guy when the movie starts. So,
And honestly, one of the greatest crash out moments you're ever going to have in a movie ever. The very end of this movie, the amount of just capital A acting of whole body language and him just like going full blown into that. And this was shocking endings in the history of movies
yeah.
where it's just like, wait, what? And, you know, oh my God, when I said there's 9 movies in this franchise, I completely skipped over a 10th one because I don't think I want to think about that it exists. Because the Tim
Well,
Burton movie
it's five.
tries
Oh, no,
to
you're right. It is 10. And I mean, I I'm not a hater of the Burton one. I
yep.
recognize all the things that people have problems with on it, but I do think it's an interesting curiosity, if nothing else.
The makeup work in that movie is incredible. And nobody could take anything from Tim Roth because he completely committed to that
Oh.
movie. It's Mark Wahlberg's no Sheldon Heston. And the trying to one up the ending that makes literally absolutely no sense
Yeah.
is the one where I'm just like, what?
Yeah, I mean but at the same time, that's one of the things that to me is a great charm of it is that it just leaves you with this ending, and that it's kind of fun to me. Um, but I mean, I mean, say what you want about Mark Wahlberg. I think there's some interesting performances, especially the
Yeah.
actors giving us the apes performances. I mean, Helena Bonham Carter, I think is doing some really interesting stuff there.
Hmm.
Um, we
Paul
just lost
Giamatti's
Paul
in there too.
Giamatti's great. Just in the
Mhm.
last day, we lost Kerry Tagawa, and he is great in that
Yeah.
movie. So yeah, a lot of good stuff going on there.
Michael Clark Duncan is incredibly intimidating in that. And there's obviously limitations of the makeup in the original films. And some of the makeup work got a little suspect towards like Battle for the Planet of the Apes because they definitely didn't have a budget anymore. But no,
Yeah.
that Tim Burton movie, they went all in. And I think they did a fantastic job of differentiating the types of apes with
Hmm.
the makeup and everything. But
Yeah.
yes, I could talk for hours about Planet of the Apes.
Well,
That's not
and
what this show's about.
I'll throw out one other thing too, because you
Yes.
mentioned Goldsmith on the original film, and I do really appreciate Danny Elfman's score on the Burton one too. And I think
Mhm.
there's a little bit of nod to Goldsmith there
Yeah.
because I mean both scores are very much centered in percussion, which I think
Yep.
is really interesting. So yeah.
Absolutely. And it just has that kind of like very there's just something off-putting about the score in that Planet of the Apes movie, but it fits perfectly because you have no bearings on where you are, what's going on here, and it's really creepy and unnerving in those kinds
Mhm.
of ways.
Yep.
But number 8.
Well, I guess speaking of creepy and unnerving, my number eight is my favorite Hitchcock film, Psycho,
Very nice.
1960.
Yep.
Uh, Another one that I showed to my kids at a, maybe not as early as I showed them Planet of the Apes, but one that I definitely had to hide things from on them, because I I knew always. It's just, certain things seep into your mind.
Yes.
And before I ever was old enough to watch Psycho, again, folks, if you haven't seen it, spoiler here, but I knew before I watched it for the first time that Norman was Mother. Okay. It's
Yes.
just that just seeped into my mind at some point. So I wanted to preserve that for my kids when we watched it together. Um, but I love just so many things about Psycho. The the that it's a great big misdirect on Hitchcock's part, from the
Yeah.
beginning where, we're going to kill the leading lady midway through the movie. That uh, who we think is this, lovable character at first turns into the true evil of things. There are such great suspense moments. The scene with where Norman takes the car and dumps it into the water, and it
Mm.
just goes, and you think it's stopped, and that, oh no, and you're just like, you're worried for him even though he's doing terrible things. You're
Yeah.
worried for him, and then it starts to go down again, and you're just like, ah. The photography in Psycho just blows my mind to this
Yeah.
day. Just some of the most creative stuff, and I mean, Hitchcock so wisely doing it in black and white. I mean,
Mm.
it's not like he hadn't done color at this point.
Yeah.
But he knew that this had to be black and white. And music again. I mean, this will probably come a lot because I am a big movie score
Yeah.
type of person. But Bernard Herrmann's score for Psycho is maybe one of the most incredible film scores ever. So,
Well, and obviously the free like
mhm.
will immediately pop up in anybody's head, but even like those moments where you hear that like eerie, disconcerting type of score going on where like you have Marion thinking about what's going on, everybody like trying to catch her and what they're doing. And the music just is really effective. Obviously, if somebody like Janet Leigh who pops up and you're just like, okay, this movie's about this woman who steals this money, she's on the run. Nope. Pull that rug out from under
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And I I wish there's a few films out there that I wish that you could watch this without having any idea what it's actually about.
Hmm.
Because can you imagine how crazy this would be not knowing where this movie was going? Because like at this point, just from like the movie's literally called Psycho. So like from that perspective, this is gonna go in a certain direction.
Uh-huh.
But that shower scene, which obviously the if this wasn't in black and white, he would have had a lot of
Oh
problems
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to get this through like rating board and stuff like that. But that whole entire sequence, just from like a filmmaking standpoint, and I'm doing my series on Hitchcock week by week, going through every single one of his films. It's gonna take me 60 weeks, but I'm doing it. And from early on, just the way that he had a handle on how the camera moves and captures things, whether it's the whole entire sequence in the shower, or even where um is it Arbogast, yeah,
Oh,
gets to the
the
top of the
stairway.
steps,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the overhead shot, and then the music starts playing, and Mother
And
just
the
walks right out of that room, and
and
the
the
whole
camera following him down the stairs as he falls. Yeah.
wild. And there's so many moments, and especially like at the very end too, with Lila with Vera Miles standing there, the lamp swinging and the light, and
Hmm.
you just see Anthony Perkins standing there, and it's just terrifying. And you know a lot to be said about the whole like explanation dump at the very end,
Yeah, yeah.
but the very end
The
of the
last
movie.
the last image is one of my favorite things about the movie. Yeah. I mean, the
It's
way Anthony
terrifying.
Perkins is sitting there, the narration that's going on, the voice of mother in his head, and that subtle little thing at the end as
The
the
chain.
dissolve happens. Okay,
Yep.
as we're dissolving from Norman to the car being pulled out of the lake. All right, and just very slightly the image of mother, the skull appears on Norman's face, where it's like it almost only partially registers in your brain, and you're like, wait a
Yeah.
second, did I see what I thought I just saw? It's just amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you. That's part of why I was trying to preserve that for my kids. I
Mm.
wish that I had been able to go into it not knowing certain things about it. Because I think the first time I ever heard reference to the movie Psycho was when Psycho 2 was getting ready to come out. Because that was summer of 1983
Yeah.
and Return of the Jedi was coming out. And I remember watching a, preview thing about all the movies coming out that summer. And I just wanted to see about Return of the Jedi, but they showed this thing about Psycho 2, and I was like, okay, well, what's Psycho 1? I don't know
Yeah.
about this. So that was my first exposure. And I mean, Psycho 2, far better movie than it has any right being. I
Any right to
recommend
be.
Psycho 2. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched that for the first time a few years ago and just was like, if this didn't have the baggage of a Hitchcock original as the first film in this, I think Psycho 2 would get so much more attention. But I feel like most people were just like, it's not Hitchcock didn't have anything to do with this. How could this possibly be good? It's actually a really effective
It,
thriller. And
oh,
what's
yeah.
fascinating is like I grew up in the 90s and I was 8 when The Sixth Sense came out. And I feel like that was a similar type of thing where it's just like just a pop culture zeitgeist of people talked about the twists in that movie in a
Uh-huh.
way that was just like I my cousin spoiled that. I wish by the time I actually saw The Sixth Sense, I didn't know what was going to happen. But
Hmm.
sometimes you just can't escape that because that's just how powerful the cultural impact is of some of these films.
Yeah. Yeah. Psycho 2, I mean, the director of that is Richard Franklin, and I
Hmm.
recommend several of his films. He's really good when it comes to thrillers. He's definitely
Hmm.
a student of Hitchcock. If you haven't seen Road Games,
Hmm.
great film. Yeah, he also did stuff like there's this movie little under the radar called Link, which is about a monkey, and Elizabeth Shue is like the trainer. I don't remember exactly, but I mean, really a solid little thriller there. So yeah, I mean, anytime you got Richard Franklin's name on it, it's worth checking out.
I have heard of that movie, have not seen it, and that post looks creepy. I just looked it up on IMDb, like ape with little match in front of it.
Yeah.
Um, very interesting. It's given me a lot of what the hell is the oh, it's just called Primate.
Oh
That's
yeah,
coming out in
I just
January.
saw the trailer for that again today. Yeah, when I was at the theater. So.
I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen this before.
Mhm.
Um, number seven.
Well, number seven is kind of where it all started for me. It's the movie that
Yep.
made me a movie fan in the first place, the original Star Wars,
Yep.
1977. Um, my life just completely changed when I
Yeah.
saw Star Wars. I was just at the right age. I was 6 years old when that came out, and I just was completely enthralled with it. I was the kid that went all in. I had, the action
Mm.
figures, I had the bed sheets, I had the curtains, my
Mhm.
room was all Star Wars. The one thing I never had was the Millennium Falcon. Still, maybe someday I'll get a
Say maybe
Millennium Falcon.
someday.
But it just it when you're 6 years old seeing that, it's just like I want to go there. I want to
Yeah.
go to that place. Even though there's big bad Darth Vader there. I want to experience this place for real. And, that's part of why all the toys and all the merchandising was such a wonderful thing for a 6-year-old in
Mm.
1977. We got to do that on our own level. I still, last year I got to go, my wife and I went celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary, we went to Walt Disney World, which,
Hmm.
we hadn't been to since they opened Galaxy's Edge.
Okay.
And I said, I'm going to cry when we
Yeah.
stepped in there. And, sure enough, I mean, like I'm standing there in front of the Millennium Falcon and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's real,
Yeah.
and, it was an emotional moment. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I could say about Star Wars that hasn't been said a million times before, but it is the movie that made me a movie fan. All
Yeah.
else that came after, in terms of my obsessive watching of movies, it's all thanks to Star Wars.
Well, and it's like the original Star Wars film is the blueprint, the most iconic of hero journeys. It's like this is sci-fi fantasy hero's journey to a T and inspired generations. And I was part of the second wave generation of Star Wars because
Hmm.
I was 8 years old. It's interesting the parallel here with Sixth Sense and Psycho, and then also in 1999, I was 8 years old and I went to go see Phantom Menace.
Uh-huh.
And that being such a big thing. But I got the three films on the special editions VHS
Uh-huh.
before that came out. And like I grew up on those. I'm pretty sure the one that I watched probably the most was Return of the Jedi because, 8-year-old um, loving the Ewoks. And,
Well, and all the monsters in Jabba's palace too, that kind
yes,
of stuff. Yeah.
absolutely. And, it's just one of those special things. And God, it's already been 10 years since the third wave of the
Yeah.
Star Wars
Yeah.
movies came out, which is wild to me that it's already been 10 years since Force Awakens came out. But like, I went opening night with a whole bunch of friends. My brother was dressed head to toe as Kylo Ren, except the mask because they wouldn't let him because you couldn't wear a mask at
Yeah,
AMC,
right. Hmm.
and stuff like that. And just Star Wars is something else. And it's something special for sure. And it'll always be something special for me as well.
you know
Um,
it, Interesting
yeah.
too, just coming at it at different times. My trilogy, of course, is the original trilogy. You were at the right age when
Still the
this
best
the
one.
prequel.
Um
But it's like, I've always said, when that prequel trilogy came out, and I mean, there were certainly plenty of people that were not on board with it,
mhm,
and I was saying, all the things that you are complaining about with this movie are the things you loved about the originals, but the thing is now you're 30 years old,
yeah.
and I was like, the kids that this is, they're going to see this now in the theater, they're going to love this. These are going to be their Star Wars. And it's totally correct. I mean, my son, who's, quite a bit younger, he was born in 2002, so the year of
Okay.
Attack of the Clones. So,
Yep.
it was a little later before he got introduced to them. But his favorite is Revenge of the Sith. And that's because of how that hits in his life. And that's his
The
Star Wars.
amount of people that are my friends that have Revenge of the Sith as one of their top Star Wars movies, it's a lot. And the amount of nostalgia goggles that are on for millennials, um, younger millennials for the prequels at this point it's intense. Um, like so many people are like, "Oh, we were too harsh on the prequels after the sequel trilogy came out," and it's just like, like I'm still one where I'm like, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones have a lot of problems, just from like a movie standpoint. But
Yeah.
am I not gonna sit and watch Phantom Menace over and over again anyway? It's like, of course I am, but like,
I, yeah.
I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that this is a perfect movie.
Well, I mean, but for every problem that there is there, you can still like, oh my gosh, look at that pod racing scene, and things
Yep,
like that, So there's
Liam
still,
Neeson, Qui-Gon Jinn, and like, it's hard to argue that Duel of the Fates is one of the coolest things in any Star
oh
Wars
yeah,
movie.
hmm,
Oh, and just, the music, John Williams, just nonstop iconic pieces of music throughout Star Wars for sure too.
yep,
And George Lucas changed things. Like him and Steven Spielberg changed things permanently
hmm,
in the 70s when it came to movies like that. Uh, I guess number six.
Number six. My favorite movie year is 1984. Okay,
Okay.
so that's the year when I really started to move beyond just being all about Star Wars
Mm.
to, looking at everything else that was out there. Because, Star Wars was 77, 80, 83.
Yeah.
So where do we go from there? Well, 1984, they gave us this amazing movie year. And my favorite movie from my favorite movie year is Ghostbusters.
Very
So that is
nice.
number six on my list. Just such a wonderful mix of comedy along with horror and fantasy
Hmm.
elements. Uh, it really shouldn't work the way that
No,
it does here. There's,
no, it
I
should
mean,
not.
if you followed anything with Dan Aykroyd, I mean, the man is a madman, and the
Yeah.
fact that he was able to get this stuff going, I guess his original concept was way more bloated and such, and I think Harold
Yep.
Ramis helped kind of hone it in and such. The
Hmm.
two of them coming together, I think, just made a perfect mix on this. Um, it's just such a fantastic cast and dynamic too. I mean, I
Hmm.
love I mean, one of the hardest questions for me is which is your favorite Ghostbuster? Because there are things about all four of them that I love, and the way they just work so well together.
Yeah.
You've got Bill Murray as the cocky, kind of smarmy, a little bit of a jerk type of guy, the leader of
Hmm.
things. Dan Aykroyd has this very childlike quality to him and
Yeah.
his excitement about everything that they're doing. Harold Ramis as the the brains of the operation, the technical, the nerdy guy. I mean, which as a nerdy kid, all
Yeah.
of us we just related with Egon, and then sometimes you know overlooked too much, but Ernie Hudson
Yeah.
is just the working class Joe that comes into this mix and is trying to figure it all out, and if he believes it or if he doesn't believe it it's just such a great dynamic between these four. And then you add in there Sigourney Weaver, who is just so
Yes.
perfect in that. And Rick Moranis, I've always said if the Academy really, honored comedy performances the way that they should, Moranis should have gotten a Best Supporting Actor nomination for this movie. His performance is just one of the funniest things of the 80s for me. Um,
So funny.
and great special effects.
Mm.
I love songs from 80s movies, and this one's got one of the ultimates in the Ray Parker Jr. song.
Yes.
So yeah, this one is an all-timer for me, of course.
I like there is a mad world where we have the alternate what this movie was supposed to be,
Yes. six
where
hour long something or other. Yeah.
the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was the end of the first act of this movie, and I would be down for a ghosts are everywhere, and there's literal teams of Ghostbusters, and this is like the ragtag crew.
Hmm.
Like, because that was like the whole entire original concept, but like nobody had money for that.
Yeah.
In 1984 was going to make that movie. So obviously this got a lot more grounded. There's this alternate universe where the original cast with John Belushi and Eddie Murphy.
Hmm.
Because that was supposed to be Eddie Murphy.
Yeah. Well,
Obviously
and
when
Moranis's role was supposed to be John
John
Candy, and
Candy.
he said, "No, I'm not right for this role. Why'd you talk to my buddy Rick Moranis? Because they worked together on SCTV, so
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like John Candy kind of worked himself a little bit out of the role too, from what I heard was like some of the stuff that he was throwing around, like I could do it like a German accent. And it's like, no, we're overthinking this now. Like, this is too much. Like the fact, like Sigourney Weaver is so committed to the bit. Like, and
Mhm.
you know, there's no subtlety in the key master and the gatekeeper
Yeah, yeah.
what we're dealing with here, but like the complete commitment. It's like my girlfriend is sleeping on top of the covers 3 feet above them. And just I can't imagine honestly this movie with John Belushi in it and not Bill Murray,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
Venkman kind of like really made this movie in so many ways. And Willie Matherton,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
everybody's least favorite person from the 1980s between this and Die Hard.
Atherton, it was, the pinnacle of the jerk character
Yep.
in these movies. Yeah, it's actually a trifecta for me because Ghostbusters, Die Hard, and Real Genius is
Okay.
the other one where he plays the professor who's kind of using these college students to build weapons for him. It's yeah, Atherton's great.
I just assumed that there was definitely more roles like this that he played in the 80s. It's just like Ghostbusters and Die Hard were just like those cultural touchstones. Him and it's a Paul Gleason, right? From Die Hard
Gleason
and
and Breakfast Club. Yeah,
Breakfast Club, which that's wild that they got both of them to be in
yeah.
Die Hard. But there's so many funny moments like this. And honestly, I think one of my favorite line deliveries in the history of movies is we were doing just fine until Dick was over here, turned off our machine. Is this true? Yes. This man has no dick. Just like, come on, Bill Murray.
There,
Like, just torched him. Like, yes, it's hilarious. The special effects are incredible. There's legitimately creepy moments.
oh
And
yeah.
yes, Rick Moranis is amazing in this movie. He's like, hey, well, if you want to bring your friend later, it's just like, this is
Uh,
why I invite clients and not friends, because I can write this off as a tax,
I
tax
love how
write-off.
he's he always locks himself out of his apartment.
Yep. And then
But
also Annie Potts.
oh yeah, no,
Ghostbusters,
Andy
what do you
Potts is
want?
fantastic. Um,
Just-
you're talking about how the movie is creepy too, and I mean legit. I mean there
yeah.
are some scary moments in it. That scene actually with Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver, where he's first kind of finds out she's possessed and such. I mean it gets kind of scary in that scene. Um, and
Resume only so.
yeah, talking about lines, I mean, there's so many great lines in that movie, but I got to throw out my favorite is courtesy of the great Ernie Hudson is Ray. When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Yes. Come on, man. And like there's a special place where Harold Ramis portrayed like the perfect, obviously would have been diagnosed with autism, very nerdy guy, perfectly just like I collect funguses. Just Egon is so perfect in this movie.
Murray at
Just
one point says to him something like, Egon, this reminds me of that time that you tried to drill a hole in your head. He says, that would have worked if you hadn't stopped me.
yeah, just like unhinged. Like, what are you talking about? So absolutely fantastic for sure. How about number five?
All right. So number five is a movie that my parents introduced me to. My parents, not terribly big movie people. They enjoyed
Yep.
movies, but not, to the level that I do. But
Yeah.
when we got our first VCR, it was Christmas, 1983. Okay.
Mhm.
I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Just a great morning. We got the VCR finally. And so, of course, you get the VCR. They've got to have something for us to use with the VCR. So they wisely went to a video store a few days before Christmas and rented some movies. All right. I remember all four that they rented. They were Bullet, starring Steve McQueen,
Nice.
Blazing Saddles, which we were probably a little too young for, but they got it.
Maybe.
It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which of
Yep.
course was the two VHSs at that time. And then my number five on my list, The Sting.
Oh,
Um,
very nice.
my mom, I think she probably had a little bit of a crush on Robert Redford, and that might be part of the motivation here. But The Sting is the movie that introduced me to the concept of like con men and these
Yeah.
guys that have this plot going on to try and get some money out of this other guy. Um, I love just the complexity of the con here, all the different steps of putting it together, the collection of all these different people who all kind of have, they're different specialties when it
Yeah.
comes to putting on the con. But I mean, at the heart of it, your three leads, Redford Newman and Robert Shaw, is actually my
Yes.
MVP of this. Shaw is just
Mhm.
incredible in this movie. Just a villain that makes your skin crawl. He truly is a scary figure
Yeah.
in this, and you want to see him get what's coming to him. So that's just a lot of fun. I think as a kid, also I really just enjoyed that it was set in Chicago. I was growing up in the Chicago
Yeah.
area, and so seeing this look at Chicago in an earlier time, I found really intriguing. A common theme here, we keep talking about music, the wonderful music, the entertainer, that style
Yeah.
of things that makes up this movie's soundtrack is just beautiful as well. So I mean, I love everything about this down to those little title cards that they put that
Mhm.
separate the different scenes. So yeah, this is one that while I can't say that my parents did that much to fuel my movie fandom, this is their one big contribution to
Yeah.
that, and I will always be grateful.
This is the grifter movie. Like there are all grifting movies, and then there is The Sting, which is a bunch of really talented, very charismatic grifters, all playing around here. And like, it's such a shame Robert Shaw passed away at 51 years old
Mm,
because, especially like some of the roles that he delivered, like, I'm a huge James Bond fan growing up, and his, you know, Spectre version of James Bond from Russia with Love and the whole fight
mm.
on the murder on the Orient Express, and obviously, Clint from Jaws,
Well,
2
and
years
let's not
after this.
forget also the taking of Pelham 123 is also
Yes,
amazing.
absolutely fantastic. And even like for your more historical drama lovers out there, the man of all seasons with him is uh Henry VIII and everything. And he's so good in this. And is there a more charismatic duo in the history of movies than Robert Redford and Paul Newman? No.
I mean,
So,
clearly it worked because this
yes.
isn't the only time that we got the two of them together. So yeah.
Well, and this was a very specific point because this was that point where Paul Newman was kind of transitioning from being like he was the young leading man type anymore and kind of getting into that middle age role. And like he was still killing it through the
Well,
70s, 80s, and the 90s.
and they
So,
play off that so well in this
yeah.
movie because part of the whole
Mhm.
dynamic here is that Redford's hooker is the young kind of
Yep.
hothead, and Paul Newman's a little bit more seasoned. He's maybe past his prime a bit. I love how
Mhm.
he's introduced where you just look at the guy and you're going, this guy's gonna help you out. You can barely stand up. He's a drunk and all that, but then in that scene where they're going to do the poker game on the train and the hook where they're going to start digging their claws into Lonigan, um, where there's just that instant change where not Redford Newman walks into the room. Up to this point, we've just seen him as drunk, and he comes in and he's just on the ball, and
Yeah,
he's so focused on getting taking this guy for the money and such. It is a brilliant acting moment.
absolutely. And the combination of George Roy Hill and David S. Ward directing and writing this film, and even some of the supporting players like
Oh yeah,
Elaine
Durning,
Brennan.
Walston,
If
great, yeah,
yes, I love Charles Durning so much. My wife and I are both humongous Coen Brothers fans, and both love "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" And him as Papio Daniels is
yeah.
something else. And Charles Durning just is such a fun character actor to throw into movies and stuff like that. And that I don't know if you're a big Community fan of the show, but I know that one episode, Grifting 101, doesn't get a whole lot of love. But honestly, I absolutely love that episode, only partially because I absolutely love Matt Berry. Like the whole entire like playing off old films like con men films like The Sting and stuff like that is just such a fun time for sure.
Mhm.
Number four.
Well, you mentioned the Coen brothers. So my
Okay.
number four is a Coen brothers movie. I think we mentioned this one the last time we talked, but
Yeah.
the movie that introduced me to the Coen brothers is their second film, Raising Arizona. So that
Yes.
is my number four. Um, this is the film that really changed my view of what a comedy could be.
Yep.
There's so many different things that work here. I mean, it is a silly comedy. It's a silly 80s
Yes.
comedy, and that's my wheelhouse very much. But this is the film that really just showed me how you could create comedy out of more than just the storyline or the dialogue. There's wonderful nuances in the different performances that happen.
Yep.
And I'm not just talking about crazy Nick Cage. I mean, like,
Yeah.
Frances McDormand. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, that's Frances McDormand. She has
Yeah.
this really short little performance in there that is just crazy. Um, this is the film that kind of showed me how you can do things comedically when it comes to how it's filmed, how it's shot,
Yeah.
how it's edited. The camera angles and the way that that is all put together also just enhances the comedy.
Mm.
So yeah, this is one that um, was I remember I had a friend when I was in high school, and we got together for an afternoon of watching movies, and we just went to the video store and grabbed a few things that we weren't sure what we were going to get. And one of them was Raising Arizona, and it just became something that I watched like on a weekly basis after that. Like
Yeah.
all through high school, I was just like, Raising Arizona. I got to show. Have you seen Raising Arizona? Oh, you got to see Raising Arizona.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's my favorite Coen Brothers movie to this day.
It's and it's hard to argue that. I mean, they're my favorite directors, and there's so many films of theirs that I love, and this is that wonderful mix of old school slapstick comedy, and a bit of screwball,
Hmm.
kind of comedy as well, and just it's so funny because Edgar Wright, this is one of his favorite films, and he's just like, this is like the craziest redneck uh like version of this comedy and stuff like that. These characters are so endearing too. Like what Nicolas Cage does in this movie, he's hilarious, but also he's extremely endearing and he wax poetic
Hmm.
about life. And there's some really sincere moments. What
Yeah.
Holly Hunter's doing is something else. It's just like, thanks, trained, like her just overly exaggerating, and just like talking out of the side of her mouth because that's
Mm.
what she does. Which is so funny because she was Frances McDormand's roommate,
Yeah.
and that's how
First,
this all got
first
together.
movie I ever saw her in.
Yep.
I know she's done all these other things after, big, notable performances,
Yeah.
award-winning performances. But to me, she's always gonna be Ed.
She is Ed. Um, Even like John Goodman and William Forsythe, which this boggles my
Mhm.
mind that that's William Forsythe is
Yeah.
in that role. But like, this is like John Goodman, his peak work was with the Coens through so many great films and performances, and just from like I've either like the straight up yelling as he's coming up out of the
When
mud,
they come out of the mud. Yeah.
or like so many social engagements, so little time. And just like him just like subtly doing stuff like that. The whole cast is incredible. Barry Sonnenfeld
Yeah.
as the early, because like obviously so many people, Deacons, Owens. Since Barton Fink, it was Deacons for 20 years. But those early Sonnenfeld shot films just have a unique feel to them.
Yeah.
And obviously he brought that to his own films with the Addams Family and Men in Black. But there's something fun with that, and even Carter Burwell with the whole yodeling
Oh, the
score and everything.
and it's almost all banjo is the
Yes.
instrumentation on that, which is fantastic. Yeah,
Yep.
I've got tucked away in my stack of vinyl soundtracks. I've got the one that's
Nice.
Raising Arizona on one side and Blood Simple on the other side. So
Very nice.
yeah,
That's really
very
awesome.
cool.
But no, Carter Burwell, I don't think gets enough credit. He's done a lot of really good work in terms of
Mhm.
composing between the Coens and Martin McDonough too, who, to be perfectly honest, kind of feels like the he obviously watched a lot of others movies because there's so many connections
Yeah.
just tonally and stuff between their work.
Uh,
But yeah,
I'll throw out one other thing, because you're talking about kind of the things that stick with you about this, and um some of the moments that are, just a little more tender, playful, things like that. Like I love the scene where, they have the baby for the first time. They're going to take a picture, take a family picture, which is very sweet.
yeah,
But it's also something that my family, that scene has just rubbed off on us. My brother, anytime we're, the family's together and somebody sets up the camera and is going to put on the timer and somebody's got to run and get in front of the camera, that he always says the line that Nicolas Cage is saying to her because she's talking to him. He's going, "We're set to pop here, honey. We're set to pop." My brother
set to hear.
always he goes, "Set to pop here, honey."
It's perfect. I actually just covered this with my movie club this month. So I just had a conversation about this last weekend with a bunch of my friends. And this is the type of movie that's a fun time to watch with people
Mhm.
and have conversations about. Next up.
Well, the next one is certainly it's another comedy, and it's certainly one that could fuel a lot of conversations. And it's another one that definitely kind of was a moment for me where I was like, oh, comedy can be this too. So it's Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the
Very
Bomb
nice.
from Stanley Kubrick. Uh, I think what brought me into this movie first was Peter Sellers.
Yes.
I, as a young person, I knew Peter Sellers was in the Pink Panther movies.
Yep.
And, oh yeah, he guest starred on the Muppet Show and things like that. So, I knew he was kind of this wacky guy. All right. And
Mhm.
then you go to Doctor Strangelove and it's, it's wacky, yes, but it's something completely different.
Yeah.
Um, and it's something that just the older you get and the more times you watch it, you go, oh my, I didn't, I didn't realize that was going on there.
Yeah.
Just there's a lot of great layers to it, but I think this is just the master class when it comes to like someone doing multiple roles in a movie like Sellers does here. I admit that's
Yeah.
something that's always intrigued me. Like when you see like Jerry Lewis would do that. Eddie Murphy's certainly done
Yeah.
that. I think it's interesting when you have one actor trying to take on multiple roles in a film. But none of them can meet what Sellers is doing here with this. I mean, all three characters that he plays just have such wonderful nuance to them. I think his the president is my favorite. I think that the phone conversations that he does are just so wonderful, where you're only hearing half the conversation, but he's like, "Well, Dimitri,
Oh, Dimitri.
one of our generals, well, he went and did a funny thing. It's kind of funny. Well, I'll tell you, Dimitri." He said, he orders his planes to bomb your country, and let me finish, Dimitri. Please, Dimitri, let me finish. It's
Just
just-
President Muffley is just such
Lovely.
a just he's like, gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war
The war
room.
room, yeah.
And I am such a huge George C. Scott fan,
Oh, Scott
whether
is
it's
tremendous in this film. Yes.
which it's so hilarious because, you know, Stanley Kubrick wasn't exactly the nicest guys, um, and definitely didn't respect his actors very much. And obviously, George C. Scott wanted to play this straight because, like, George C. Scott's not this kind of actor, and Kubrick just kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him, and he was going to these exaggerated places, and he's like, "Yes, this is what I wanted all along."
I love when he goes,
And
I'm not saying we're not going to get our hair mussed a bit.
the Mr. President, we are going to have a mine shaft draft. And just the whole entire, like him just going to 100 in terms of his energy
Yeah.
with everything. And, Sterling Hayden
Oh yeah,
is
I mean
just
he's
like,
great too. It's so
Ripper is just like
so
so
dark.
intense
Yeah.
and terrifying. And just the obviously Strangelove himself doesn't get a whole lot of screen time in this movie, but like he makes the most of it. Like
Yeah.
the evil Nazi hand where it just wants to keep saluting. And
Yeah.
he's like, ah, my Führer, I can walk.
Well, and I mean, I
Just
can't imagine anybody else, being able to do what Sellers does in that. Like,
yep.
just trying to force the hand down, or the part where the hand is trying to strangle him, all that kind of stuff. Um, that's not something you could just get anybody to do it. You
No.
need somebody on the level of a Peter Sellers to do that. Also, I want to put out some love for Slim Pickens. I mean, Slim
Yes.
Pickens is his role. I mean, we were talking about other, what could have been type of things. Slim Pickens' part was originally supposed to be played by Peter Sellers as well, and
Interesting.
I think it was, he couldn't quite master the, doing the Southern accent, or I don't know exactly what it was. I've heard various stories, but I think Pickens is just such a great choice for this.
Yeah.
I love his kind of, laid back, good old boy type of thing.
Yep.
Kind of coordinating all the different points. I mean, James Earl Jones is one of the guys there with him. And,
Yeah.
they've got a good thing going on there. So yeah, I mean, this one's got everything, and not to mention, I mean, we talk about the comedy and the performances and such, but it again, beautiful black and white
Yeah.
photography, just shot in a way that goes beyond what you expect out of most comedies. There's just such an attention to detail when it comes to how this is shot and the images. That I often think of this as being a movie that I'd like to hang it on my wall type of thing. There's
Yeah.
several scenes, just the use of the light and the shadows in it, that I just think is
Mhm.
beautiful.
And this is a tight 95 minutes.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. I
that
mean, we remember, we think about Kubrick going overboard with his lengths. I mean, this ain't Barry Lyndon. No, this is a nice
no,
little evening. Yeah,
the Barry Lyndon's to Doctor Strangelove.
yeah,
Uh it's it's one of those types of things where it's just like I'm pretty sure the title of the movie is longer than the movie.
yeah.
Um it's I remember watching this for the first time and just not like I think I watched this too young because I just did not cue in with
Right.
the frequency of dark humor that's going on here.
Hmm.
And watching this now, I'm just like, God, I could I'll only laugh or else I cry. Like thinking about the type of like the world we live in and just on the brink of feel like one person is like this close to sending the whole entire world over the edge.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what this was. And how old is this movie at this point? We're just like, why we're still feeling this way. This is over, what, 61 years old
This
at
came
this
out,
point? Yeah,
what is this?
64.
1964. So yeah.
Wild. Alrighty. So if I counted correctly, we're in your top three, right?
Well, yeah,
So
that was number three. So
number
yeah, we're
three.
at
Yep.
number two. So
Yep.
um, number two, I mean, I said Star Wars was the movie that made me a movie fan. This is the movie that got me moving that direction.
Yep.
And I think we've talked about this before as well. This was an annual thing, but The Wizard of Oz,
Yep.
1939, is my number two. Um, just there's so many memories I have wrapped around watching this movie on its, annual showings on
Mm.
CBS. A lot of those I remember like going to my grandmother's house. I mean, it was an event. The whole
Yeah.
family went over and we watched The Wizard of Oz at grandma's house. Because again, before the VCRs, this was the only time we could watch this every year. Um, it's I remember being so enthralled with the land of Oz. I mean, we talked about you being transported to another place with Star
Mhm.
Wars. This is kind of the first movie that did that type of thing for me. And when I became an adult and a parent, my daughter and I, we read through the original Oz books. Again, part of
Mhm.
that I'm sure was fueled by the fact that I had just been so captivated by this world. The idea that it changes from black and white to color was just always just an amazing moment.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, uh, the songs are just incredible. I love every one of them. Some of them are earworms. Yes, they get caught stuck in your
Mm.
head. I love some of the goofier moments. My family, will tell you my favorite song in this is "If I Were King of the Forest," that the lion does. It's just this odd little song that is plunked into the
Yeah.
middle of this movie. You didn't need it, but it's just this wonderfully goofy moment that's in there. This movie used to scare me when I was a kid. I loved it, but it scared me. And there was, different years that I would watch it, there would be different things that scared me about it. So, like one year, I'd be scared of the witch. Another
Yeah.
year, the faces of the flying monkeys creeped me out. Another year, I just had to run into the other room when I saw the big flaming head of the wizard.
Yeah.
It just, um, but still, even though I would be terrified of different things about this movie, you'd still go through the adventure and you get to the end and it swells in you, and it's just such a satisfying movie experience. So yeah, when it comes to the classic era and the musicals of this time, things like that, The Wizard of Oz is always going to be the top of the heap for me.
It's interesting because I'm literally in the middle of writing a article for my website about this because I do a weekly recommend a movie on streaming.
Hmm.
And it's very topical right now because Wicked for Good coming out and
Yep, yep.
everything, the the Cinephiles, my favorite podcast, like I've absolutely loved that show. And they just wrapped up their 3 episode arc of talking about the Wizard of Oz, and this is truly iconic. Like the word iconic probably gets thrown around a little too much. Like this is one of the most influential cultural touchstones in the history
Hmm.
of movies.
Yep.
And there are so many other movies, so many scenes, so many characters, so many stories wouldn't be a thing without Wizard of Oz. Like
Hmm.
this just set the tone for everything. And Margaret Hamilton literally crafting what a witch in a movie is.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, you talk about Wicked, and so much of what we get there is
mm,
not so much from the Oz books, the
yep,
original stories. A lot of what we're getting there is based off of what's in the movie.
yep,
I was actually talking to my family about this after we saw Wicked for Good last week. Um, you know, the the fact that that version of the story, those movies, the play, the book that it's based on,
yeah,
they play off of the fact that the witch is green.
yeah.
That is not an element of the original L. Frank Baum books. It is
But
never
that
mentioned that she's
Technicolor
green.
looks great though.
Yeah. She wasn't dressed in the pointed hat, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's illustrations in the original book. She looks nothing like she does in these are incarnations. So
Well,
it's all based on the movie.
and I grew up I grew up watching Return to Oz too.
Oh
Um
yeah. Guilty pleasure, I admit it. Yeah.
what a twisted movie. And like mommy does not like that's not what this witch looks like.
Yeah.
Um and like what Margaret Hamilton does and what they did in crafting the Wicked Witch is iconic. And then Glinda the Good, the Yellow Brick Road, Munchkin Land, and the Emerald City,
Hmm.
and asbestos smoke coming down over the poppy fields, and all the wild stuff that went into making this movie. And this cast is incredible. I have a little funny story because in my office we have our little writing center room, and there's a cubicle in the corner, and I've been sitting back in that cubicle, and people are like talking out in the rest of the suite. And I would be lying if I didn't at least a few times be like, I am Oz from behind the cubicle because people didn't realize I was back there. It's like that whole time, like, don't pay attention to the man in the curtain.
Yeah.
And the whole entire thing is so amazing. And that moment where the sepia tones shifts into that technicolor is mind-blowing.
Hmm.
It's just absolutely incredible. And Judy Garland and Somewhere Over the Rainbow. There's just endless elements. And as I get older, I appreciate Frank Morgan so much more and
Uh-huh.
what he's doing in this. And of course, just the three of them, of the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. This is such a strange musical because like it's obviously a musical, but I don't think most people remember it being like tell me your favorite musical. I don't think people really like say, "Oh, The Wizard of Oz," because it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
so deeply ingrained
Hmm.
in just the experience. But there's just something really special about this film for sure, and why all these years later it's so iconic and still beloved for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like we said, high up on my list. I'm not going to say it, if I was saying the best musicals of all time, and
Mhm,
especially the classic era and such. I'm not going to I think the best musical ever made is Singing in the Rain.
mhm.
But The Wizard of Oz probably would come in a close second. But
There you go.
it's a film that I have a more special place for in my heart, for sure.
There we go. And we are here. So,
Yes.
what is number one?
Number one, well, I mean, I said Star Wars made me a movie fan, but The Empire
Mhm.
Strikes Back is a better film. So that's my
Yep.
number one. The
There you
Empire
go.
Strikes Back. Um, it, and I mean, it's more than just that it was the next Star Wars movie. Okay.
Mhm.
It did up the ante in so many
Yeah.
ways, so many, just technically and all that kind of stuff. And that thrilled me, of course, as a kid. This is the movie that made me say, "Oh, the good guys can lose in the movie." That's one of the most interesting things about this. But
Yeah.
for me, one of the big things about Empire is um, is the performance of Frank Oz as Yoda. Um, I think I don't remember when we talked before, but I think I mentioned to you that I have a background in puppetry. There for many years I worked as a puppeteer, and so many things, especially from this era. This is at the height of the Muppet Show,
Yeah.
and then other things coming like this, where it's just an intricate puppetry performance. These are things that certainly had an influence on me as I was doing my own things when it came to the art of puppetry. And I still say that what Frank Oz does in this film is maybe the single best puppetry performance ever captured on film. It's the type of thing where back in 1980, I can remember people watching this, my schoolmates, even adults watching this and going, "That wasn't a puppet. That's somebody in a costume and lots of makeup." I was like, "No, no, 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 no. That was a puppet. Listen to that voice. That's
How
Grover. That sounds like
how
Grover." You
tiny
know?
of a person to find and
Yeah.
stick in that costume.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, if I was to dig into, the things about Star Wars that I love, my favorite moments from Star Wars, my favorite musical cues, all those kinds of things, the vast majority of them are going to come from The Empire Strikes
Yeah.
Back. So I guess while we're on that subject, since we've talked about a lot of music stuff, my favorite Star Wars music cue is from Empire. It's the asteroid field
Yeah.
sequence. I just love John Williams' score for that. It's amazing.
Well, between that and like the Imperial March
Oh yeah, I mean this is where the
introducing
Imperial
like
March comes
yeah,
from. Yeah.
and like that's how you do a sequel. Like you keep building on it and adding stuff
Hmm.
in, and like the whole entire Hoth sequence at the beginning of this film, it's like they go hard out of the gate,
Hmm.
and like the I can't bring myself to call them uh ats and stuff like that. But like I had one of those as
Oh
a
yeah,
toy,
it's
and
amazing.
like how big of a role is General Veers? Not big at all, but I still remember him. And that whole entire sequence, and Yoda is just such an incredible character that they introduce, and the work that Frank Oz does in this movie is incredible. Introducing Billy D. Williams,
Oh yeah,
as Lando
coolest
Calrissian,
guy in the universe. Yeah.
and you know one of the most iconic twists in the history of movies.
Hmm.
No, I am your father. And just like, and that whole entire sequence, like, obviously, there's more impressively choreographed lightsaber fights
Hmm.
in like the prequels and stuff like that. But few lightsaber battles have the weight as this
Well,
the storytelling of Luke versus Vader in this is just absolutely incredible.
I mean, talking about the lightsaber battle in this, I mean, people have, nitpicked and analyzed all the different lightsaber battles.
Yeah.
Okay. And, I can remember people, getting down on this one a little bit because I mean, Vader's basically doing it one-handed and he's kind of standing there very cool through parts of it. And Luke's coming. I was like, no, wait, but it's perfectly fits because, Vader's the one that's, got the skill and all that. And Luke's the hothead and he thinks he knows what he's doing, but he doesn't. Luke's coming at him like crazy. And Vader's just boom, 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 boom. And I was like, it's perfect for what is supposed to be going on
Well,
here.
and it's like, is Vader going hard trying to kill him? No, because as soon revealed, like that whole entire thing is just how that recontextualizes this whole entire dynamic. And yes, this has a downer ending. And you're just like sitting there, I'm like, and like Harrison Ford's like, I don't want to come back. And just I just find it so fascinating how much he loves Indiana Jones and how much he hates Han Solo
Yeah, yeah.
and wanting to come back and do Star Wars.
But it's
And
like, I mean, dude, you don't get Indiana Jones unless you were Han Solo first. You know what I mean?
no,
So, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like he'll play along, which he does, and he gets paid. He did
Hmm.
come back for Force Awakens, which let's be real here, he's still one of the best parts of Force Awakens. Like Harrison
Yeah.
Ford, you might not want to be here, but we want you here.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And just the whole entire dynamic between him and Leia, and just they really started coming into their own. Obviously, it took until I feel like Return of the Jedi for Luke to finally like obviously become a Jedi, but like his whole entire training sequence, that like how abstract was that whole thing where he goes into like that little cave and
Hmm.
you just like whipping that out in like a summer blockbuster movie. Like it's a lot of summer blockbusters go to like abstract places like that and they
Yeah,
make your audience think a little bit. But The Empire Strikes Back is just an absolutely incredible achievement. And, George Lucas is an incredible ideas guy. Um, n- I'm not ever going to say like George Lucas is an absolutely incredible director, but like
sure.
he took a step back and allowed
Irvin
Irvin
Kershner.
Kershner to
Yeah.
come in here and direct the hell out of this movie.
Oh, yeah. No,
So,
I mean, I mean, not just because it's my favorite of the series, but I think Kershner was the best director, out of all the people that have handled Star Wars. I think this one was a challenging one. I mean,
yeah.
considering what the first movie did, where this one goes,
Mhm.
knowing that it's going to go on after this,
Yeah.
obviously, but I think of all the filmmakers that have tackled Star Wars, he had the most difficult task here, you know,
Mhm.
because he had to prove that the first one wasn't a fluke,
Yeah.
and he had to take it to the darkest place that the series has been. So, yeah.
And he knew. So
Hmm.
there you go. But Todd, thank you so much for coming on here and taking the time to walk us through your 10 favorite movies.
Thank you. I appreciate this. I've always said that like I could very easily nail down like my top three or four, but
Hmm.
this forced me to kind of have to go, okay, I gotta be clear on the other ones. And
Yeah.
I've kind of started, I haven't made it a public thing, but I have started trying to keep adding things so that I can hopefully get to a top 100 list on Letterboxd. So this has kind of forced me to hone in on that. So I appreciate that.
As somebody who's dabbled a lot in that, it gets so challenging once you get up to a certain point to be like, how do I rank this anymore?
Right.
honestly,
Yeah,
because like
exactly.
because not gonna lie, I do have a 500 list on
Oh,
Letterbox
geez.
right now. Like, I'm not gonna lie, once I got past like 150, I'm like, I don't even know how I'm justifying any of this on this.
Yeah.
And the amount of time I spend thinking about why isn't this higher? Like the amount of time it takes to really hone that in. But like when you have those films that just hit so hard, because like, not gonna lie, my top 10 favorite movies have not changed in a long time. The last time I added anything into it was 10 years ago because if people can't tell from my branding, I'm a big Mad Max fan. And Fury Road blew my mind. So that changed things for me and recontextualized because the Road Warrior was up there for me. I'm like, wow, like this is if he George Miller had money and could do whatever he wanted to do. And I'm like, this is a masterpiece. But it's those films and all of the ones that, and I'm not just putting this on because we're chatting about this, but like all the movies that you mentioned are favorites of mine. These are all absolutely incredible films, and now I want to marathon them this weekend as we're recording on Friday night. I'm like, Shane, you have other things to do.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is watch all these movies all weekend. So
That's, I mean, this, I feel the same way. It's like when you start talking about these, you go, oh, yeah, I really want to revisit that now. And then at the same time, there's that other part of my brain that goes, how many thousands of movies haven't you seen yet that you still need to watch, that you bought the DVD before
I
and you haven't watched it yet?
I'm gonna pull the trigger. I'm gonna have to rewatch The Wizard of Oz at some point, like really soon, because between Wicked and listening to the Cinephiles and now talking about it tonight, I'm like, God, I just need to The Wizard of Oz.
It's been
Um,
too many years for me on it as well. I was like, geez, when's the last time that I watched that? I need to pull it out here again soon.
my monthly movie marathon I have with my friends. I think it was 2 summers ago. We did a musical movie marathon, and just so happened to turn into, and I kind of facetiously renamed it the mostly Muppet musical movie marathon because it wound up being three Muppet movies and then Labyrinth. It's
Hey,
just like,
I,
and then
you know,
and then the last one was Wizard of Oz. So just popping that on top of it, I'm like, okay, it's not 100% just Muppets, mostly Muppets, but that's where we
hey, I
it's,
can't fault you with that at all. I
no,
mean, as it stands right now, like I said, that top 100 list I've been working on, if we were going all the way down to like the 20s, there would have been Muppets showing up. They're there. I grew up on those movies.
I'll be watching the Muppet Christmas Carol with my mom tomorrow because that's our Christmas tradition for sure.
We do
But
it every Christmas Eve. I can honestly say that is
there you
probably
go.
the movie I have seen the most because I know I've watched it every year since it came out. So,
There you go. Well, before we wrap things up, Todd, if you'd like to shamelessly plug where people can find you, if you would like,
of
go right
course.
ahead.
So yeah, my podcast is called The Forgotten Filmcast. So
Mhm.
you can find that wherever you find your podcasts. I also have a blog site that's at forgottenfilmcast.wordpress.com. We're on pretty much all the socials. If you search for at Forgotten Films, films is spelled with a Z. You can find us on all those places. And I mentioned Letterboxd earlier. I always love to encourage people to follow me on Letterboxd because I am a junkie. I am I am always logging the stuff that I watch over there. So I love following people back. It helps gives me ideas for what I want to watch. So yes, follow me on Letterboxd.
I can't remember if I follow you on Letterboxd. I have so many lists on Letterboxd at this point. I'm like, too many list
I
shades,
think
too
we
many.
do. I think we follow each other back and forth
Yep,
on Letterboxd. I'm
there
pretty
you go.
sure.
But yet again, Todd, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's great fun.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.